I missed an important funeral, and now I think my 5-year relationship might be over. Before everything happened between us, we were solid. I truly believed this man was my forever. We had lived together for the past 3 years, and I loved him deeply and valued the way we supported and helped each other. He often said we were family and that we would always look after one another. This year was my final year at university. I was completing my March degree and my Part 2 exemption to become an architect. In March, the final printed copy of my research project was due. It was essentially the culmination of the past 7 years of my education. Unfortunately, during this time, my partner's grandmother passed away. This woman had essentially raised him when both of his parents were unable to cope. They were incredibly close. In her final years, she developed dementia, but she always remembered him and their little inside jokes. He loved her deeply, probably more than anyone else in the world. In the weeks after her passing, I tried to spend as much time with him as possible. I took him to the Archdiocese, where we lit candles, walked through the gardens, and talked about his grandmother. His friends came to visit that weekend, and I spent the entire weekend with them to keep him company, even though I should have been finishing my research project. I took care of him throughout that week, encouraging him to rest and grieve. Unfortunately, his boss is extremely difficult, and it was a struggle for him to get any time off to properly mourn and recover. His grandmother's funeral was scheduled for 4 days before my research project deadline. The problem was that I still needed to complete final edits and have everything printed, and the funeral was on the opposite side of the country. This was a 200-page research project. I worked incredibly hard to prepare everything in advance so that I could attend the funeral with him, but in the end, I simply did not have enough time. I was still editing and adding material up until 2 days before my submission deadline. While he was away, I spoke with him over Skype every morning and evening so we could talk about how he was coping. After the funeral, he returned home, but he was devastated. Once my project was submitted, I tried to talk with him about the funeral. He showed me photos, and I read the eulogy his sister had delivered. I cried after reading it, and that was when my boyfriend became angry. He told me that I did not have the right to cry or be upset because it was his grandmother and because I had chosen not to attend the funeral. Things have steadily gone downhill since then. It has been 2 months. In addition to my research project, I also had my regular coursework to complete, and it has been an extremely busy and stressful period of my life. My boyfriend had gone through a similar experience the year before, during which I supported him extensively. While he attempted to support me this year, he was cold and distant the entire time. At one point, he even admitted that he did not want to help me and could not be bothered. Everything came to a head when I confronted him about his behavior, ignoring me all day, being rude, distant, and at times outright cruel. He told me that he could not forgive me for missing his grandmother's funeral and that he did not think he ever would. I admit that I lost control in that moment. I felt like I had been forced to choose between my education and my relationship, and only in hindsight did I fully understand that. I was so overwhelmed and emotionally distressed that I hit my head against the wall and screamed. I had never felt such intense emotional pain in my life, and I did not handle it well. Since then, things have not improved. We have tried to talk calmly, but a few days ago he exploded and went on a long rant about how terrible his life is, and how deeply hurt he feels. I learned that there is much more trauma in his family history than I previously knew, including severe physical abuse from his father, which his grandmother had protected him from. I knew his relationship with his father was strained, but I did not know the extent of the abuse. I suggested therapy, but he said he was not ready for it. We discussed a possible solution, and he suggested that I return to my home country alone for a few weeks to be with my family and give him space to grieve. He also said he was considering moving out of our flat at the end of the summer to live with friends, although he claimed he still wanted us to remain together. At this point, I believe the relationship may be over. I do not know how to show him how sorry I am that I missed the funeral, especially when there truly was no alternative. I love him deeply, but if this is what our relationship has become, I do not think I can continue. I need perspective, perhaps advice on how to properly apologize, or if not, advice on how to end a long-term relationship. Edit. Many people have asked about this. I did request an extension from my academic advisor, but I was told that the school does not grant extensions under any circumstances. The university's policy for mitigating circumstances in graduate projects requires students to submit whatever work they have completed by the deadline, then resubmit the completed project at the next grading cycle. This would have meant that I could not graduate this year and would have had to wait until the next cycle. I should also mention that we usually travel to my home country for a few weeks every summer to visit my family. While no specific trip was planned this year, we had discussed the possibility, which is why his request was not entirely unreasonable. Final update. First, Thank you to everyone who offered advice. It helped me feel less like a terrible person and reminded me that my partner is still grieving the loss of his grandmother. My significant other and I had a long discussion the night I posted on Reddit. We agreed that we wanted to stay together, but that something needed to change. We set basic ground rules and agreed to seek individual therapy, him for his grief and issues with his father, and me for stress management and self-confidence. He asked for space, so he moved into the spare bedroom. I also booked a flight home for a few weeks and was scheduled to leave in 4 days. We made some progress that week, spending time together and trying to reconnect. After 5 days, he moved back into our bedroom, and I felt hopeful that we might make it through this. That hope ended 2 days ago when I received my grades. I am proud to say that I earned an A on my research project, and one of my urban design proposals was nominated by my school for a gold award from the RIBA. This year was the hardest of my life, and I did not expect such results. I cried when I received the news. I sent my partner a long message telling him about my grades and the nomination and thanking him for supporting me throughout my degree. I told him I loved him and that I was glad we were working on our relationship. He came home that night furious. He yelled at me for nearly an hour, criticizing my lack of confidence and insisting that I never needed to miss his grandmother's funeral. He told me that he hated me. After that, I shut down emotionally and barely remember the rest of what he said. My final end-of-year exhibition is happening this week. It is a major event where students display their work and often secure job opportunities. I filled an entire wall with my architectural and research work. Last year, I supported him at his exhibition for 6 hours, speaking to people about his work. This morning, he told me not to expect him to attend because he wanted to go to the gym instead. I am flying home in 4 days, and it is clear that he wants me to leave and not return. I have honored every promise I made to him. I have supported him and begun therapy. He has not even contacted his GP for a referral. He does not want to fix the relationship, he wants me around to help pay rent and absorb his anger. So we are over. I paid my final share of the rent, and I am moving back to my home country. I had originally planned to return for only a few weeks, but with the Brexit vote looking increasingly bleak, I see little reason to stay in the UK. Why build a career here if I may be forced to leave within a year? I like the UK, and I love my boyfriend, but it seems neither wants me anymore. I'm going home to take care of myself.